Hi, welcome to a new episode of Amplifiz podcast, the podcast that is dedicated to pharma and MedTech leaders and that helps you and your team maximize your potential. Dear Marine, good day to you. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Guillaume. Good morning to you.
I'm so happy to have you. It's been a long while. I was hoping to do this show together with you. You have an impressive experience driving change and innovation in pharma, and your passion for transformation and people management is contagious. So I thought you would be a fantastic guest for us. Would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself?
I always start by introducing myself as a global citizen with a French and a Swedish passport now.
Right.
I've been living for 10 years in Singapore, and I'm a mom of 3 teenagers, young adults now. But most importantly for today, my background is a healthcare and pharma executive. When I started my career, I chose pharma as an industry and GSK as an organization at the time because I really wanted to work into something meaningful on products that were helping people, helping patients. Yeah. And I also was very much driven by innovation, curiosity. I wanted to do things that had not been done before, go into uncharted territories, move abroad. So the first step, actually the first phase of my career has been really about exploring and building that breadth. And I started to work on initiatives that were a little bit fringe to pharma, learning some of the basics, but also around new initiatives like saliva testing for HIV or building models, which at the time were very innovative, pioneering digital health in a way at the time. So I learned a lot from that. Then I went back into core pharma and built depth and went through the fast track of, being a business unit head, being on an executive team, becoming a GM. And it became more about leading people, organization, multiple stakeholders, but always with that point about, helping patient and bringing solutions to patients. So from the start, I had a knack for data and technology and a real passion for improving patients' outcomes.
What is your evaluation of where we stand in terms of digital maturity of the pharma sector and probably more around the go-to-market? How do we provide value and engage with healthcare professionals or patients?
If I look at, today, 2025 versus 10, 15 years ago, I think we've made huge progress. What was something that was a little bit misunderstood or like digital, multi-channel, a little bit tried out, but really not core. Data-driven marketing, CRM, Omnichannel, or more of a hygiene factor. It's in constant evolution. I heard the term Omnichannel about optimizing how we bring the right message to the right customer at the right time. But it's moving along. However, we have very advanced models in the US or big market where there is a lot of investment, where we can really use data and mine data to understand customers' insight, where we'll build lots of great content, etc. And other parts where there is less investment, where it's still very much about the sales rep, which is fine, but like the sales rep alone as opposed to augmented, and where investment is limited with a lot of constraints. So I think we still have a very balanced view, a very contrasted view on where we are today.
If you think of the marketing organization in pharma, it is quite a headache, to say the least, for many of these global brand teams to understand how to orchestrate a globally coherent and yet locally relevant go-to-market messaging and customer engagement strategy at large. What do you think could be best practices?
So one of the things that's missing sometimes is, we're missing the point, which is how do we help customers locally get their job done? So, how do we support the job to be done, which is the basic of marketing? And I think, global campaigns are amazing to, and, all those global brand teamwork is amazing to accelerate, knowledge, content, tools, etc. But sometimes create a lot of complexity. And for me, it's about finding a balance of, like a sort of a hybrid. And I remember talking about the golden number of 70-30 between what's coming from global organizations and what needs to be created or adapted locally to make sure that local teams are really, really focusing on the local customers' needs and concern. I don't know whether that addresses your question, but for me, that would be, keeping that balance and that common sense beyond the processes and philosophy of global brands.
Tell us a bit more about what you do now and what kind of problems do you usually help to address and solve?
It's really about taking another viewpoint to actually continue to build legacy and impact and to help healthcare executive and organization transform. And for me, that means helping leaders and their team really focus on business objectives, on what the technology can bring, and making sure that at the core they put their team, their people, the culture, so that they can create change that lasts and that sticks, and really transformation that actually makes sense and are sustainable.
Yeah. You feel that the industry is able now to focus more on personalization and providing content that is tailored to the HCP?
I think the industry has taken a little bit of the measure of, let's make sure we don't overwhelm our customers with, like push information all over. Mm-hmm. I think the industry still, the teams still think quite siloed. So they're very much still focused on their relationship to HCPs and to patients, in isolation of the rest of the healthcare ecosystem. And what's happening at the moment for healthcare professionals and for patients is AI is accelerating or changing the way they get information, actually manage some of their tasks and data, and there is a lot of new entrants. So whilst I think we have less of that situation of overwhelming HCPs with information, and to be honest, they've also learned to take only what they're interested in, there is still a big gap in connecting the pharma value add to the rest of the ecosystem. Big pharma does it in major countries where they have a lot of presence, investment specific areas or in specific therapeutic area, and a lot of partnership with startups, for example. But in our regions, for example, that still I think is a blind spot.
Right. Let's talk about this a little bit more, because I fully agree with you. I think and quite a number of reports show this, right? All the major pharmas have already been investing quite heavily in or partnered with the most advanced tech brands out there to build their own AI model for R&D, for drug discovery. So that is really in motion since a couple of years already. When we look at further down the line in terms of market access, in terms of medical, in the sense of medical affair, in the sense of marketing, commercial, distribution, and so on. What is the state of the industry now when it comes to identifying opportunities with AI? What do you think are the main use cases that the industry should be focusing on when it comes to go-to-market?
So I think the ones you mentioned are the key ones on the value chain, and they're the big bets, and they're major. But if we focus on that GTM and more commercial medical affairs, market access value chain, there is a lot that can be done. Sometimes maybe not as big shiny objects as what we see in drug discovery or other, but there are some very clear improvement that can be done. So we've seen it already with regulatory submission. Recently, Novo Nordisk announced how they're using Claude to build regulatory applications, which is still ahead of the GTM, but it's a very good example where they reduced from 15 weeks to 10 minutes some of the reviews, and they've really trained and checked the models to ensure it's robust. And that for me is these kind of tools are major for medical affairs, because the amount of literature review, of content, of submission is huge. So just starting small there can unleash a lot of energy and work from the medical affairs team to focus on the important thing. content generation, of course, even just building patient case studies through Gen AI for commercial and medical team. Is a huge possibility, and even managing content workflow and reviews. Of course, the entire Salesforce excellence and analytics area is already accelerated through AI, and I would say it's do more of the same, but better and quicker.
Right.
Pricing reviews or like analytics exercise to identify what would be the most effective pricing strategies. There is a lot of ideas of how AI can really support the workflow. I think the key is to, and of course, analyzing social data, social media sentiment data, which we've been doing for a while already, actually. So I think there's a lot of possible examples. The key is to be very focused on problems that exist, and again, getting the job done rather than doing AI for AI. So really identifying key problems that are taking a lot of resources, subject for errors, and making sure that we focus on like small specific projects and go all the way from creating, testing, getting the data, testing, and especially monitoring over time, because we know that's one of the key challenges of AI, the potential error, hallucination, including, way after models are running. And the other piece for me is making sure that there's the right change management around so that it's well accepted by organizations and we go all the way. So there's a lot to be done, but actually really exciting, and it's not necessarily very complex or very expensive in that sense.
And so, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. You are covering a lot of great points. Change is always exciting for many, but also scary for others who feel that they might, be missing the train. And now with AI, while the use cases you describe are exciting, but we know that not everybody is yet Gen AI educated. Professional nor a prompt master by any means.
That's actually a major objective, building AI literacy in general, by the way, but definitely in the industry. And I think teams now in most large organizations have access to enterprise agents, AI agents, and especially to resources to train and learn. And I certainly see large companies like Sanofi doing a lot of programs to bring their senior leadership on board, but also making it accessible to teams in the organization. I think that's key. And again, it's learning basics and then trying out building things and try and test, but also sharing the responsibility that comes with AI and the need to look at it overall, because AI has immense possibilities, but the speed and the consequences, including in terms of living its own life in a way, and the risks of errors and hallucination, is something that needs to be well understood from a very practical standpoint when you build a model. So I think there are things going on. It's definitely where it should start. I always believe in the theory plus a bit of practice. Right. So building small things that are low risk, just to try things out, and a little bit like when the smartphone started to be common. One of our challenge was to leverage that technology with customers, because we were saying, HCPs were using a smartphone every day, but how could we, evolve in our offering in terms of how we bring content to them to actually leverage that. Likewise, a lot of people start to use AI in their personal daily life at home. But they should start to do this at work as well, and save time around that. It needs to be understood as learning and augmenting, as opposed to replacing or suppressing. Right. But just making everybody comfortable with the technology is the best way to make the leap forward.
Yeah. How do you feel the senior leadership of the pharma industry at large is equipped on this knowledge and on being able to drive this agenda?
Yeah, so I think it's again there is heterogeneity, like there is a variation. We certainly see some of the senior leaders, CEO, C-suite, very much on that game for a while, actually, and before, the ChatGPT expansion to the public made it available and commonly understood. So, and I think those are the ones who will win. And yes, definitely helping, leaders and teams build that awareness and think of those possibilities, but also, define their approach, because it can be quite overwhelming for a team. So, define like a stepwise approach is definitely something that we can help with. I would say then the key challenge is how do you pass that on to the rest of the organization? So as in with any change, and we've seen it in the past, at the end of the day, we are still talking about transformation and digital transformation in a way. It's about digital enablement. It just goes much faster and with a much bigger significance. So as with any of this, the challenge is, how do you actually bring the whole organization on board? You need absolute lead from the top. You need experts that move things inside, but the challenge is going to be how you bring the rest of the organization. I'd say the key thing for me is, like to make change stick and to make it successful, there needs to be, both a very clear vision of what we're trying to do. There's the vision of the top, of course, but most importantly, within the team of the organization that is going through the change, clarity in terms of what it means for them.
Right.
And it can be it needs to be coherent, but it can be a small step. There needs to be an understanding of, like how to do it. So capability, and sometimes change only happens because you bring into your team someone that actually understands what we're talking about and can start to spread and share that. And the more we share the knowledge, the quicker the change will happen. And then the last thing for me, particularly for leaders or managers trying to make change, is don't assume. So don't assume that your team understands. Don't assume that people, are in fear or don't fear change that's coming. Don't assume that they feel they have the ability. Just keep asking questions, keep talking to them, and that's a way also to bring them on board. So for me, communication is not only about explaining what we want to do, of course it's key, but it's a lot about asking for people's understanding, asking for their views, and making sure that it's a real two-way conversation, so that we can progress together. And I would say last but not least, keep your common sense throughout. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? Yeah. And then and that's how we convince people who are not necessarily attracted to technology at the start. Right. If you can manage to help them resolve their problem.
Thank you so much, Marine, for taking the time to join me on the show today.
Ooh, thanks a lot, Guillaume. It was a real pleasure to have this conversation. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for watching this episode of Amplifiz podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, to put a comment, to like, and see you soon. Thank you so much.